Hello and welcome to the Author Webinar Series, brought to you by the Nonfiction Authors Association and Writers Conference. Since 2010, we have helped thousands of writers learn to write, publish, and promote books that make a difference in the world. If you are seeking guidance for your own author journey and want to reach your goals faster, you can learn about membership benefits, courses, and additional resources by visiting nonfictionauthorsassociation.com. We look forward to connecting with you and hope you enjoy this webinar.
Hey friends, welcome back to another free webinar with the Nonfiction Authors Association. I am your host, Stephanie Chandler. Always appreciate you spending time with us today. I just had a quick chance to say hello and see so many coming in from many different states in the US, but also several different countries, Austria, Switzerland. So I appreciate all of you, especially those of you who come in internationally at odd times of the day or evening. We really appreciate you. So today we are talking about how to break into professional speaking. This is a fun topic. I love covering it. I jammed a whole bunch of information into this presentation for you. So for those attending live, I will take your questions at the end. Feel free to chat amongst yourselves in the chat, but for questions, put them in the Q&A. That makes it a lot easier for me to get through those. At the end, we will also share the slides. So the recording and slides will be shared later today. So thanks again for being with me. Let's dig in. All right, good news for you. Speakers sell books. This is just a known fact. And if you have ever done a book signing at a bookstore, you probably know how painful that experience can often be, where you're just kind of sitting there at a table hoping someone will talk to you, versus when you speak at an event and you captivate an audience. They are looking forward to buying your books, connecting with you, maybe signing up for your email list, those types of things. I love this example because this author likely just spoke at an event and now has a line of people looking to buy her book. So isn't this what we would all love as authors, is to have people anxious to buy our books? And the wonderful thing about speaking today is we can do it in person, but we can also do it online, as I'm doing right now. I love the online format. I am going to cover that briefly today as well. But the online format allows us to speak to audiences all over the globe, as I'm doing today, and not have to get on a plane, which I also really love. But there are so many opportunities both ways. So let's look at some actual examples of speakers. I'm a huge fan of the Atomic Habits book by James Clear. He has been building an email list for many years about habits and living a better life based on good habits. Imagine what happens when you release a book that hits the New York Times bestsellers list. Your speaking services just get in much greater demand. And I would guarantee you his speaking rate has gone through the roof because demand, supply and demand, right? And he has been in demand since this book has been on the bestseller list for quite a long time. I would bet many of you are familiar with Julia Cameron and her infamous book, The Artist's Way. It's one of my favorite guides to being a creative person. And she does tons of speaking still today. She also is a great example of branding and creating a series around a specific topic. So she speaks on creativity and writing. She's spoken for us at the Nonfiction Writers Conference a number of years ago. And so speaking is a great way for her to continue to grow her audience and connect with them. I don't know, Grande maybe, but I stumbled on her on the Simon & Schuster website where they book their authors as speakers. And she's a memoir writer. So for those of you writing memoir, let me just remind you, you have plenty of topics to talk about. It could be based on some sort of healing experience you went through, something you overcame. It might be a motivational topic. So just know that if you're not writing prescriptive nonfiction, you still have much to offer in the world as a speaker. Now, Alenka, and I hope I'm saying that right. I discovered her actually while I was I was kind of refreshing these slides, and I looked up our local Rotary Club. So I live in Folsom, California. Our local Rotary Club has a list of their upcoming speakers. And guess what? Alenka is on that list talking about riding across California and Mexico, and it's based on her memoir, and so she gives guidance on travel and things like that. Local service groups are a great place to start with your speaking. Dr. Gabor Mate is another really fabulous writer and expert on the subjects of addiction, mental health. He wrote a book on attention deficit disorder, which he himself has. And as a physician treating people with addiction, he started to get known for being an expert in that space and started speaking about it. And now I see him everywhere. He's doing all kinds of programs in person and online as a result of really establishing himself as an expert in that topic. Hal Elrod is a great inspirational story for all of you because he started out as a speaker for MLM organizations for things like Cutco and Tupperware. He would be a motivational speaker at these events long before he had a book. And he's an interesting speaker. He survived a head-on car crash with a drunk driver and a traumatic brain injury. So he became a keynote speaker talking about motivation and sales with these MLM organizations. And while he did this for a number of years, he was building his email list and connecting with the audience. So after doing this for a number of years, and he releases his self-published book, The Miracle Morning, he has an audience captive and ready to buy his books. Speaking actually propelled his book to incredible success. This self-published book has sold over 2 million copies. And just this morning, I snagged the most updated number of reviews on that book, 34,000 reviews of a self-published book. It's just almost unheard of. So speaking continues to be one of the top ways that he connects with his audience and sells books. I love this story. This is Charmaine Hammond, who wrote a book about her dog, lessons from her dog Toby, and she launched her Million Acts of Kindness tour. And she went and got a local RV company to loan her an RV. She had it wrapped. She went and got sponsors, and then she reached out to her community of influence. This is the people that you know. So people that you worked with, peers, friends, and she had a multi-state tour plan and would say, "Hey, I'm coming to your city on these dates. Can you help me set up speaking engagements?" So she traveled 10,000 miles. She got 40 sponsors for everything from coffee to some hotel rooms mixed into that tour. She said she did speaking engagements in corporate conference rooms, at schools, pet food stores, church basements, basically anywhere that would take her. She sold tons of books and just made a tremendous amount of connections along the way. So rather than just going and sitting at a bookstore hoping somebody talks to you and buys your book, when you can go in and engage an audience, it completely transforms that experience and how many books you're going to sell. So my question for you is, what will you speak about? And if you already know, feel free to share it in the comments. I'm sure you'd all like to see what you're working on and what your topics are, but let's talk about how to figure this out. So, for your book and for you as an expert in your subject matter, who is your target audience? What are their interests, needs, and challenges? And how can you serve them? Serve them through the content that you share, not only in your book, but in the speeches that you are going to create. I'm here speaking to you because I support nonfiction writers. And I know many writers want to become speakers. So this was a great topic for me to cover in a webinar. So I know my audience, I know the struggles, and then I produce content and speeches based on the needs, challenges, and interests of my audience. And that's what I'm challenging you to do as well. So, understanding your audience is the key because this is how we connect with the right people who want to buy our books. So, what you want to do when you're thinking about your speaking topics is come up with something related to your book. When we're going out and speaking, we're not speaking about our books. This is not a sales pitch, it is about delivering value to the audience. So, come up with topics that are related to your book or at least attract the people who will be interested in your book and come up with the topics that can be evergreen, things like travel planning, relationships, how to overcome a challenge, how to live with an illness. These are all topics that will always be in demand. And if you can relate them to your book in some way, that will help you serve the right audience and sell more of those books. When you're coming up with your presentation titles, or topics, I should say, you really want great titles that appeal to the audience, and you want to write a description for each of them. Now, when you're doing this, think about the fact that that title and description are often copied and pasted into the event program wherever you're speaking. So you're writing it for the audience. You want to write it in a way that compels them to want to attend your event. And I recommend, especially when you're getting started, come up with 2 or 3 topics. And the reason for this is if topic A doesn't exactly align with the host organization, perhaps they will like B or C. So I would really challenge you as your homework from this presentation today is to come up with 2 or 3 speaking topics that you can cover for audiences. And then I always want to mention you want to avoid confusing your audience. So if your book is about life lessons from your dog, you don't want to go out and give a talk on how to travel through Europe, right? So we want to be clear about the target audience, how we serve them, and how that aligns with our books in some way. I definitely recommend that you look to fellow speakers, look at their websites to get some inspiration. I was going to list a bunch of them here, but I think we all have different interests and needs. So I would say pick some of your favorite authors that you currently read or that are in your space and see what they are speaking about. Look at their speaker pages. So this will give you some great insight into how they're positioning themselves as speakers, what their topics look like. You might also be surprised not all of their websites are going to be great. So I'm always just fascinated when I look at speaker and author websites. Even big name authors don't necessarily always have the best websites. So don't be surprised. But start looking to those who you admire and whose content you enjoy and see what they're speaking about. Now, as you're getting ready to really own being a speaker, you want to start with creating a speaker page on your website. This is literally step one in declaring yourself a speaker is adding a page to your website. So hopefully you have a site today. And right now you probably have your home page, you have an about you page, you have a book page if your book is out, you have a contact page. Now you're going to add a speaker page, and your speaker page is going to list your 2 or 3 topics with the descriptions. You want to have at least 1 or 2 professional photos of you, bonus points if you can get 1 or 2 of you on a stage or with a microphone. And you want to make it easy to contact you, even though there's a separate contact page on your site. If I'm looking to book a speaker, I want it to be if I'm looking to book a speaker, I want it to be as easy as possible to find the information I need. If you charge for speaking, you may want to list, my rates start at X dollars. And certainly, as you're out there speaking, you want to collect testimonials from each engagement. I am guilty of forgetting to do this myself. So try to get in the habit of after an event, send an email to the host, thank them, ask them to write you a testimonial you can put on your website. Definitely getting video of you speaking is really important, especially today in this digital age. When they're booking a speaker, they want to be able to see you in action. So get video of you speaking at an event. And then when I say logos, I mean logos of the places where you've spoken. So if you've spoken at the Rotary Club or you've spoken at a big company like Google, whatever it is, if you can gather those logos and put them on the site, that really adds to the credibility and looks impressive. And if you don't have them yet, don't worry, you're going to add them as you go. But even a handful of those logos can start to really impress the people who are booking speakers. So once you have a page on your site, then you want to create what we call a speaker one sheet. A speaker one sheet, it's actually often two pages, not just one, but this is a PDF that you make available from your website. And this lists your speaking topics. It basically lists the details on your speaker page on your site. But oftentimes, when organizations are doing an event planning session, they will print out the speaker sheets to discuss and choose speakers for an event. So these are helpful for event planners. And if they're looking for speakers and you've applied and you don't provide this to them, you might not get considered at all simply because they can't bring it to their meeting. So you want to create a one sheet. It can be really simple. It generally lists your topics, testimonials if you have them, a little bit about you, maybe a picture of your book. So you can find templates for these on sites like Canva, but it doesn't need to be really fancy. This looks like it was created by a professional graphic designer, which you can certainly do too, especially if you're seeking paid speaking engagements, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But you want to have the right amount of content on here, the information that gets across your credibility and your ability to deliver value to the audience. Now, most of us as speakers speak for free. Even highly paid keynote speakers often speak for free. It's just part of the industry. And sometimes there's an honorarium. I spoke at a writers group a couple months ago. I think they sent me a couple $100 for as a check, as a thank you. I was happy to do it. It's a target audience for me. So you may get a small honorarium, but for the most part, especially when you're getting started, you're doing it for free. And you're going to speak for free when a friend asks you. You're going to speak for free as potentially an opportunity to get leads to other paid opportunities. But generally, when you're speaking at like your local trade association monthly chapter meeting, or you're a breakout speaker at a big conference, generally the breakout speakers are not paid. Hopefully, they get free conference admission. But for the most part, it's the keynote speakers who get paid, not the breakout speakers. So the keynote speakers are the draw. They're the headline of the event, and they're the ones generally there to deliver some sort of inspiration. I tend to be a tactical speaker. I give very tactical information. So I do a lot of breakout speaking, which I'm perfectly happy to do if it's the right audience. You can also get paid speaking for tactical content. I've certainly had speaking engagements for teaching things like how to market online, how to leverage social media. Those are some topics that I've covered as a paid speaker. And smaller groups will bring you in and pay you well to do those events. So, paid speakers early on in particular, I mean, you're looking at 3 to 5,000 is a pretty standard rate for a speaking engagement, unless you're have really built some notoriety, then your rates go up from there. So yes, you're looking at 3 to 5,000 as a speaker fee. And that's going to also have travel expenses added to that. So they should be covering your travel expenses generally on top of the fee that you receive as a speaker. So it can be a very lucrative business if this is what you aspire to do. And if you don't, that is perfectly okay too. You can continue speaking for free or for honorariums and make money from selling your books at the back of the room. Now, if you aspire to be a keynote speaker, and even if you don't, we definitely want to work on building our speaking skills. I hear nothing but great things about Toastmasters. I've never done it myself, but everyone I know who's been in a Toastmasters chapter raves about it. They're all over the world. And those are organizations where people gather together and practice giving short presentations. I think improv classes are a great idea. They're a great way to teach yourself to kind of think on your feet. I love watching speakers that I admire on YouTube. For example, Brene Brown is a phenomenal speaker, and she's not really dynamic. She's not juggling, scarves on stage or doing any dramatic actions. She's just there connecting with the audience and giving value. So she's a great one to watch. I also think it's really important to practice speaking, especially when you're new to it. And so, years, many, many moons ago, I was a technical instructor in the Silicon Valley, and I taught software classes. And what we were trained to do was learn the course materials and practice delivering them in an empty classroom. Let me tell you how awkward it was to deliver like a 3-day class to an empty room. But the fact is, it really helped cement the materials in my head. Now, I will say I don't believe in memorizing speeches with the exception of short speeches like a TEDx talk. In that case, you really need to be concise, you're time limited. Short speeches are actually much harder to give than long speeches, in my experience. So, I'm not saying you should necessarily memorize your speech. I generally, when I'm in a big group, I have some sort of prepared opening and a prepared closing. But in the middle, I do what I'm doing now. I talk to my slides, I tell stories, I give value, I have thought through what I'm going to talk about, but it's not super rehearsed. But as a new speaker, I would recommend you practice as much as you can. And one way to improve your speaking is to film yourself and watch it back. And yes, I am recommending this, and I also completely admit that it is a painful thing to do. I still don't like watching myself on film, but as a speaker, I have done this. I was actually put through professional speaker training 25 plus years ago. And part of that training was we would give short speeches and then go watch the recording with a coach. And oh, it was brutal, you guys. Watching the habits that we have, shaking change in your pocket, clicking a pen, things like that. Filming yourself will break you of a lot of bad habits. Swaying back and forth, that's something that I do in just general conversation. So, watching yourself on film will really help you refine your kind of tics that you have as a speaker. And then, one of my favorite tips that I've ever gotten about being a speaker is that excitement and anxiety come from the same place in your body. So, if you are feeling nervous about walking out on stage or going in to give a speech, tap into the excitement that you have for being there. So I've done so much speaking at this point. I rarely get nervous, but when I do get nervous, it's generally if it's a really big crowd or if I have a lot of peers in the room, people who know me, makes me nervous for whatever reason. So what I will do before I walk out is just tap into, I'm so grateful to be here. This is so exciting. And that also ups your energy level. It helps you really show up looking enthusiastic. And it's amazing how it transforms those nerves into something far more powerful, which is that excitement. All right, so how do we find speaking opportunities? The good news here is there are endless opportunities for you to speak. If you are within, 50 miles of a major city, you could speak every day of the week if you really wanted to, starting with service groups. So, Rotary Club, Kiwanis, any kind of service organizations. This is a picture of me speaking to our local Girl Scouts group, which I have to say was a career highlight for me. And I said I don't get nervous often. I was actually nervous about the Girl Scouts. I mean, I'm a mom, but I don't think of myself as necessarily supernatural with kids. And I had never spoken to kids before about how to be a writer. So I really spent a lot of time preparing this discussion, and it turned out to be so much fun. So, did I sell a bunch of books? No. Did I get personally rewarded from the experience? Absolutely. I still really just feel so warm when I think about what a great experience it was. So, along those lines, maybe you have local nonprofits or service organizations that matter to you, maybe something along the lines of NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, or other groups that serve some sort of purpose in the world. Maybe you're not going to sell a ton of books. Maybe you're not going to get paid, but that personally rewarding experience can be so valuable in itself. Trade associations are really kind of a goldmine of speaking opportunities. So there are associations for just about anything you can think of. I have spoken to the Association of Coaches, the Association of Architects, Association of the Rigid Plastics Packaging Manufacturers Association. Yes, the people that make clamshell packaging have their own trade association. I've been paid to speak to them. I've spoken at automotive dealer associations. So it goes on and on and on. The great thing about associations is they often have local chapters in, cities near where you are. And if those chapters are meeting on a monthly basis, many of them are seeking speakers. So you can potentially go and speak at local chapter meetings, not only where you live, but maybe in other cities if that's a really great target organization for you. And then in addition, trade associations often have big annual conferences. So they will bring in speakers. As I mentioned, it's the keynote speakers that generally get paid. Breakout speakers don't, but you may get free conference admission. You may be able to sell your book at the conference bookstore. I love speaking at conferences that reach my target audience. It's fun. It's a great way to sell books and connect with new people. And then trade associations also host webinars and online events. So, pretty much whatever you can think of, there's an association for it, whether it's, Chihuahua Owners Association, it's your succulent growers, it's your service military organizations. I could go on and on and on and on and on. There are endless associations. So, start looking for those in your own backyard and look for the chapter website. And generally, they will list the board of directors for that chapter or some contact for that chapter. Sometimes they make it really easy, and there's somebody there who's in charge of the event planning. That's your person to contact. If that's not detailed there, you could really reach out to any board member and ask, are you the right person to help with, scheduling a speaking engagement? If not, could you please direct me to the person who handles the speakers for your events. So it can be that simple to start your outreach. And also look on those chapter websites for call for speakers. So the big conferences generally put out a call for speakers, but also the chapters may have an ongoing call for speakers or apply to be a speaker because they're seeking speakers. It's a win-win because they need to bring their audience great content and you have great content to share with them. You can also speak at schools, basically all the grade levels. As you work your way up, as far as if you're trying to get paid, probably most likely to get paid through colleges. They tend to have budgets for speakers and things like that. And you can get paid at some of the smaller schools, the grade schools, junior highs, high schools do have some budgets, but that's going to be much trickier to get access to. I love the idea of speaking at churches. The Unity Church, for example, is a non-denominational church. They welcome speakers and authors, whether it's to do a 1 hour or a 90-minute presentation or even to teach a workshop. And you could actually, if you were so inclined, tour the Unity churches all over the country if you wanted to, applying to be a speaker there. They may do some sort of revenue split with you. So, just ask. But either way, you're certainly going to be able to sell books. Many of them have an on-site bookstore, and they'll keep your books in the store for sale after your event is over. So other houses of worship, same type of opportunities, look to see if they welcome speakers, and especially if they reach your target audience. Locally, if you check out meetup.com, there's probably lots of groups meeting in your backyard. Things like real estate organizations, investment clubs, maybe it's singles group and you're a dating coach. Whatever it is, look to the meetup groups to see if you can reach out and often offer to be a speaker at one of their meetings. And then corporate speaking is where you may be able to get paid. And I will say lunch and learn events. I remember this from my Silicon Valley days 30 years ago, but we would have these, notices that there's a lunch and learn on Friday, bring your sack lunch. And we'd have somebody come in and talk to us about health insurance or retirement planning. And generally it was somebody selling something, but they would come give you a talk on their topic. So, authors, you can do that too if a corporate audience makes sense to you and you're willing to do that for free in exchange to be able to sell your books. But also, corporate is where we can get paid. So, you might speak to the staff at a corporation, you might speak to the customers or the clients of the organization at their events on their behalf, at annual conferences. Tons of opportunities in corporate world, and this is where many speakers really make money. Now, if you're looking for corporate contacts, let's say you focus on women's issues and you want to connect with the people at Dove. Dove soap is, very well known for kind of supporting women. And maybe they have a conference. I don't know, but let's say they have a women's conference and you want to figure out how to be a speaker there. You could go to LinkedIn and look for event planner Dove International or whatever the brand name is. Or you could look for the director, there's all different kinds of job titles within that conference organizer. And so look for titles because on LinkedIn, you can actually search by keywords, by company name, by titles, and you might get lucky and find the right person. Also, you could look at the past speakers for those events. So oftentimes the past speakers are archived somewhere on an event website. See if you happen to know any of them or if they're accessible. Could you reach out to someone who's maybe in a similar field and say, hey, I saw you spoke at this big women's conference. Is there any chance you could help me figure out who to contact? I'd like to be a speaker at next year's event, something like that. You might also create Google alerts. So a Google alert for women's conference call for speakers, because that is often what is put out as a call for speakers. So you might create alerts to start getting notified of events that are coming up and seeking speakers. So call for speakers is kind of the industry terminology. And often these are put out many months prior to an event. It could be as many as 8, even 10 months prior to an event, depending on how big the event is and how on top of it the event planning committee is. So I like to create alerts, call for speakers, medical, call for speakers, investment, whatever your topic is, add that to call for speakers and get notified when those come out so that you can check to see if it's the right opportunity for you and you can respond to those. This is an example. Healthcare Business Management Association has a call for speakers. I think this is an ongoing one. So a lot of these organizations just have an ongoing way for you to submit to speak. So look for these call for speakers. Now, once you find an opportunity, or you find a contact or you think you have found a contact, then you're going to send your speaker pitch. Your pitch should be brief, to the point, friendly. You want to demonstrate your credibility. You want to share a link to your speaker page. You want to attach your speaker sheet. And really remember, it is about the audience. It's not about your book. It is not about you. It is about the value you deliver to the audience, right? So I'm going to come to your women's conference and teach women how to increase their self-esteem in 3 steps. Something along those lines that aligns with their audience and the value you are bringing to them. Now, as a speaker, especially if you're doing a lot of free speaking, you want to be able to sell books. So make sure that's part of the agreement. I always ask, can I bring books? Can I sell books? Hey, would you buy some books to give to the audience? You can always ask them that. So sometimes you can get the sponsor, maybe they have a separate budget and they can actually buy books and distribute them to the audience. So it's always worth asking. They can just say no, but it's worth asking. And if you're really lucky, you might get a sponsor to buy the books and give them away to the audience if they're looking for exposure with that audience. Now, when you go to speak at an event, you want to be really prepared. So, I like slides. I always have my slides not only on my laptop, but on a backup drive. So, I put them on a flash drive that I always carry because laptop blows up, laptop gets stolen. I have them on a flash drive. And I'm really conscious about this. So, I also put them in a Dropbox folder that I can log in and get access to. So at the last minute, if I have to use somebody else's laptop, I can quickly get access to my files in one way or another. And let me tell you guys, this has happened where my laptop wouldn't connect with the AV equipment and I had to use someone else's laptop. I was so grateful that I had backup copies of the slides very easy to access. You want to make sure you let the audience know that you have books available and you'll be signing them at the end of the engagement. I like to try to be under time versus over it. Don't keep the audience there past the time you're supposed to wrap up, especially if you want them to buy books. Because if they're running off to another session and you've made them late, they're not going to be happy with you. I would rather end early, do Q&A, and sign books. And you want to just, I like to be overdressed, quite frankly, when I'm at live events. I'd rather be overdressed than underdressed. That's a personal preference, but you want to show up in an outfit that aligns with the type of audience that you're speaking to. I use a rolling suitcase for my books. I learned this years ago. Get an inexpensive rolling suitcase, put a case of books in there, bring along tablecloths, pens. You'd be amazed how often tape comes in handy. Scissors, maybe you're making a bonus sign or a flyer because it's occurred to you that you forgot to bring a sign and you want to offer, buy three, get one free or whatever it is. So I keep it like a go bag for events that has these things in it and always bringing along a way for people to sign up for the email list as well. Now, in addition to our in-person speaking opportunities, we have webinars. That's what we're doing right now. I love them. I love teaching. I love delivering values. So webinars allow me to reach so many more people without having to travel anywhere, which is my favorite part. So you have the same opportunity. You might do free webinars. This webinar is 100% free, and it is a great way that we grow our email lists. We introduce people to membership in the association, upcoming classes, things like that. So you could do free webinars, deliver value. You might do a paid webinar, which is more of a training, and you might have sponsors pay you to deliver webinars. So this is an example of a free webinar. We're doing it right now. I saw this come up in an ad on Facebook of a free webinar on tap into your client's inner hero. So it's for mental health professionals. Why it showed up in my ads, they need a new ad person. But the point is free, and it's a great way for this organization or this guy to connect with his audience. This also showed up in my ads, and it's about marketing for indie filmmakers. Again, bad ad strategy shouldn't be coming up for me. However, that's a $12 webinar. Great way for this person to probably find some new clients that will lead from that webinar into other things. Sponsor webinars are when you get a brand to pay you to do webinars. Yes, there are paid opportunities. This is Melinda Emerson. She does a ton of webinars with different brands. This one was with Thrive. She's done them with Visa. I've seen her do them with all kinds of different brands. So as you kind of build your credibility online, these potential sponsored opportunities can come your way as well. And in addition to webinars, there's online events and summits where you could be a speaker. You can you can live stream your presentations on social media, on YouTube. There's tools like StreamYard that allow you to simultaneously broadcast across multiple social media platforms. And then there's podcasts, which many have converted to video now as well. And podcasts, totally separate topic that come back. We'll talk about it another time, but another great way for you to reach audiences and sell more books. And I love this. This is an actual invoice from my buddy Carl Polachek. He's a publisher. He works with companies that are IT companies, businesses that sell IT services. And then he gets sponsors to put logos on the book covers and pay him to do webinars. So here he's creating a co-branded book. He's charging them a setup fee of $1,500. He's selling them 300 books at a rate of $4,500 and an additional 300, so 4,500 twice, $9,000. He's charging $100 shipping, and then he's charging 4,000 to deliver the webinar, and then he's charging an extra 1,500 to promote the webinar to his audience. This entire invoice totals $16,000. This is the value of building credibility online and aligning with sponsors that want to reach your target audience. So great opportunities here. So with your webinars, we are always filling a need for our target audience. What topics can you deliver that address their needs, challenges, and interests? You'll want your own Zoom account. You'll create your registration page. You're all here today. You registered. We don't do a fancy landing page. We just have people register through the Zoom registration page. And then you would promote your events through social media, your email subscribers, those types of places. And then as a speaker in general, topics need to fill a need. Great titles and descriptions are super important. You want to start figuring out, where does your audience spend time? What organizations do they belong to? What trade associations, what nonprofits, what events are they attending? Go speak at those places. And then build your speaking skills. Practice, speak to an empty room, film yourself, do all the uncomfortable things that will help you become a better speaker. And as a result, you should start selling lots more books. And I just want to encourage you, the fact that you're here today, bravo, because speaking is well known as one of the top fears that humans have. Like, some people would rather die than have to give a speech. So the fact that you're even considering this, you get great credit for doing that. This is not an easy thing to do. I did not set out to be a speaker, you guys. I've always been far more comfortable writing articles, but I realized the opportunity to connect with my audience, to sell more books, and decided to just embrace it. And in fact, I had a friend send me a web camera probably 15 years ago. He sent me a webcam and he said, if I've got to be on camera, you do too. And, I still don't love to watch myself on video, but I have learned to embrace it. And my point here is that you can learn to embrace all this stuff too, and you can have a lot of fun doing it. So I would love to take your questions. Please put them in a Q&A and just give me 2 minutes to tell you about my course that starts next week. So we just blaze through some very high level topics, but I'm going to dig much deeper into this 4-week course on professional speaking for authors. It starts next Thursday, September 18th. So same time of day. And by the way, the link is prospeakingcourse.com will get you to our site. Week 1, we're covering how to choose your speaking topics. We're going to It's a highly interactive experience, so we're going to brainstorm titles and descriptions, outline a presentation. We're going to learn how to create captivating slides and course materials and what to put on your website. Week 2, we're going to talk about developing your skills. We're going to talk about the differences between free and paid and how to identify the best opportunities that align with your goals. So, again, very interactive. We talk a lot of this through. We're also going to talk about how to land a TEDx talk and then strategies for selling your books at the back of the room. And in week 3, we talk about getting paid. So, how do you get keynotes? How do you get sponsored, paid speaking opportunities? How can you pre sell books? How can you boost your revenue when you're selling books? And then week 4, we go more in depth on how to host your own webinars and online events, what equipment you need, your scripts for getting started, all those things we dig in nice and deep. So if you'd like to join me, I'd love to have you. We're going to talk about setting it all up, your topics, your slides, finding opportunities, pitching the opportunities, delivering presentations like a pro. The course rate, if you're a member of the Nonfiction Authors Association, it's $398. Non-members, it's $597. If you're not a member, you can actually join when you register for the course and you will get member pricing instantly. And we absolutely have 3 pay options available at all the levels. And then you also get bonus materials. This is some of them, but you get your speaker one sheet examples. There's a speaker contract, an actual contract that I redacted some stuff and I share from a speaking engagement I did a number of years ago, a paid engagement, webinar welcomes script, intake forms so that you know what questions to ask when you're talking about a speaking opportunity. So there's like more than a dozen bonus downloads that go with this course. You get them as soon as you register. And then I just wanted to offer today, if you do register for the course, we will mail you a physical copy of the book marketing and launch plan. This is my book. It is about marketing, not speaking, but honestly, you guys, everyone should have it. It's 200 pages. Don't mind my post-its. I'm constantly making notes to myself. But really, if you're an author, this book helps you get your marketing done no matter where you are in the process. So you can do all this. prospeakingcourse.com will get you to the course page. If you're watching this and you're already registered for the course, yes, we will send you the book as well. So to claim the book, send an email to help@nonfictionauthorsassociation.com, put free workbook in the subject line and give us your mailing address. By the way, this is US. If you're international, we'll send you the digital copy. But if you register today or you're currently registered, we're happy to mail you a copy of this book. And for those attending today, if you've been in any of my previous courses or you're a member of the association, I'd appreciate it if you put a note in the chat about the value that you've gotten from our other programs. Teaching is my favorite thing I do. So I really look forward to our courses, and this one is a ton of fun. I only teach it live once a year, so I'd love to have you join me. All right, let's enough of that. Let's talk about your questions. I am going to stop sharing, open up the Q&A, take your questions. So if you have questions for me, please pop them in the Q&A. It's much easier for me to find them in there. All right, Eileen says, does Canva have a specific template for a speaker sheet? Yes, Eileen, I believe they absolutely do. I think they actually have more than one template for speaker sheets, so you can check there for sure. What are your best tools to use? I'm not sure what you mean by that specifically, Eileen. Could you maybe post another question and elaborate? Tools wise, I'm a good old-fashioned PowerPoint person. I purchased the right to use images on our slides. That's really important. You need royalty-free images or the right to use the images that you use on your slides. So happy to talk to you about that. We absolutely dig into that in great depth in the course as well. Tina says, it seems like a lot of what you're sharing can be applied to workshop proposals, which have more of a teacher-student element to it and a required curriculum agenda, whether it's 2 to 3 hour workshop or an all-day workshop or weekend. Would you agree? Yeah. Hi, Tina. I do agree. As a prescriptive nonfiction writer, I've taught a lot of workshops based on my book material, and I'm looking to do more of that and sell a few books in the process. Tina, yeah, this absolutely is very similar to how you pitch workshops. But I will also say I do have a revenue streams course starting in October, and that is covering how to pitch online courses and things like that, or pitch courses, online courses in person. So we do cover that specifically in great depth, but you would absolutely get a lot of value out of this speaking course as well, and it aligns very well with a training also. Jennifer, how do you prevent Zoom bombing when you do an event widely promoted or available? Well, Jennifer, you would, first of all, require registration to your event. So that can weed out a lot of people. And then maybe have somebody monitor the chat for you. I don't do that because, knock on wood, that has not historically been a big issue for us. But if you're concerned about it, have somebody monitor the chat that's also has the ability to kick someone out, so make them a co-host. What was the email address to get the workbook mailed to us? You're signed up. Thanks, Tina. So send your email to help@nonfictionauthorsassociation.com to claim your workbook. Let us know you need the free workbook and give us your mailing address. We're happy to send that to you. Dinah, how do you balance writing and speaking? Oh my goodness. How do you balance writing and everything in life, right? I think I don't really believe there's such a thing as a work-life balance at this point. I think we're constantly just trying to find balance the best that we can. So, I would say figure out how much time you can afford to be away. How much travel can you do if you actually aspire to travel and be away from your desk doing speaking engagements? If you're doing webinars and things like this, keep in mind you are spending time building your presentation slides. I mean, for me, that can often take several days, planning your materials, so that there is a lot of effort that goes into it. What I will say though is once you've built those things, it gets a lot easier because you can constantly adjust. So this presentation I've given before, but in different iterations. I always refresh my materials. I'm always adding new examples. So I don't take it right out of the can and deliver it. I'm always refreshing it. But once the foundation is there, it makes it a lot easier to adjust. But I would say, how much of a priority is speaking to you? That informs how much time you're going to spend. So maybe an hour a day put toward your speaking goals, something like that. Same thing with your book marketing, right? It's just always a matter of trying to find that balance. And once again, the email to claim the book is help@nonfictionauthorsassociation.com. We're happy to send you one. Eileen, yes, the recording and slides will be shared later today. Watch your inbox for those. Dinah said she joined Toastmasters. Preparing speeches is taking away from writing time. Yeah, absolutely. That is a challenge. I will say, my writing time, I personally like to have big chunks of writing time. I don't do great with just like an hour in the morning. I want to know that if I get on a roll, I can stay on that roll. So for me, I separate out my writing time. I might carve that out on a weekend. I might make that the first thing I do in the day before I open an email, maybe from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., something like that. So I would say just get intentional about how you carve out that time in your schedule. Eileen, I was working a proposal for a speaking opportunity at a conference. They wanted a CV, which is a resume. My work life had nothing to do with my book or my writing. What would you suggest? The deadline is passed. So, I mean, that's interesting, Eileen. I haven't seen a lot of requests for an actual resume, but they might be looking for your speaking resume. And if you're new, I mean, you can't make it up, right? So I would say start where you are, start building that list. Local speaking engagements, speaking at the Rotary, all of that counts. And especially if you can get some video of you speaking so you can demonstrate your abilities, that's what they're looking for. And I remember applying for a conference. This was a number of years ago. And didn't have a ton of speaking under my belt yet, but you know what I had done in my previous life in corporate? I had spoken at Dow Jones. I had spoken at the several military bases. I was a technical instructor. I spoke at conferences for them. So I use those. I mean, I had the experience speaking there. So think about that as well. Maybe that would help. Do I always use slides and visuals, Lindsay? So I definitely like slides, and I absolutely always recommend giving a handout of some sort, especially in person. You want people to remember you by something. Now, I will say that the exception is smaller groups. So if I were going to speak to maybe 20 or less people, I might skip the slides. It might feel too formal. And look, if you're comfortable speaking without slides, by all means, go for it. That to me, the slides help me stay on track. I don't veer off on tangents. I don't forget to make key points. So for me, they just help my tired brain stay on track. But some people, if you've got a great memory and you can do that yourself, by all means, do that. All right, did I get through all the questions, you guys? So, yeah, what time of day does your professional speaking course start and finish? Oh, hey, Sue. So it's the same hour of the day. So it's 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern is the course time every Thursday. Course sessions last about 90 minutes. And the recordings are available. If you can attend live, it's okay. You'll get the recording that same day. Of course, it's lots of fun when you can attend live. And I really especially enjoy the engagement with the attendees. So that's a lot of fun and a great reason to be there live. So the link to get the book, if you register for the course today or you're already registered, you can request the workbook at help nonfictionauthorsassociation.com. Make sure you're registered for the course. I would love to see you there. You guys ask great questions, and we're going to finish right on time, which I love doing as well. The website link is prospeakingcourse.com. I appreciate you all so much. I hope this is helpful for your journey, and I hope to see you back again in our community, whether at a course, another free webinar, within our member community. I love connecting with our authors. So thank you all. Thank you for the nice comments. I'm seeing those in the chat now. I appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you all soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you for attending this webinar by the Nonfiction Authors Association. Since 2010, we have helped thousands of writers learn to write, publish, and promote books that make a difference in the world. If you need support navigating the complexities of the publishing industry and want to reach your author goals faster, you can learn about membership benefits, courses, and additional resources by visiting nonfictionauthorsassociation.com.